Started out with the Biefeld-Brown propulsion effects, and it's been recently confirmed that they're very powerful. They work more efficiently in vacuum, as the inventor T. Townsend Brown found out, and others all around the world. Anyway, I got started researching the effects and technology of Professor John Searle way back in 1986, when I got a book that was compiled by David Hatcher Childress called The Anti-Gravity Handbook, and I found something about Searle's magnetic motor and gravity drive, because what happens, which is very, very interesting, is very magical. When you overload this generator, put too much of a load on it, it will be repelled by the Earth and fly non-aerodynamically. It's very, very interesting. And there's been books written about it. One book that I highly, highly recommend that I first got in 1993, was published by team member John Thomas in 1993, is Anti-Gravity, The Dream Made Reality, the story of my boss, John Searle, who's over in Glastonbury, England, across the channel right now. He's working. He's 80 years old. He was born May 2nd, 1932. There's John Thomas on the back. So you have... He invented the Searle effect generator and the Searle levity disk, which we call the inverse gravity vehicle today. And in 2009, January 2009, we published the John Searle Story DVD. Highly recommend that. It's a continuation of the book. And anyway, without further ado, we'll get started with the presentation. Now, see if this clicker will work. Inverse gravity vehicles for our electrodynamic world, and we live in an electrodynamic world, which we're evolving into consciousness of fifth dimensional energies, or raising our consciousness. Professor John R. Searle's all-electric spacecraft and more. Magnetic motors, that's me. I'm a chief inverse gravity vehicle engineer for Swallow Command. Go to swallowcommand.com. And I've been working with Professor Searle since 2007. He said, we're impressed with your work. We'd like you to join our team. And I've been chief inverse gravity vehicle since then. And in 2010, I was promoted to head of R&D and commander-in-chief of Searle Aerospace Incorporated, which was incorporated in the state of Nevada in 2010. And I also lectured with Professor Searle in 2010 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. www.swallowcommand.com. Recommend you go to that. And I have 60 minutes. I started at 12:23, so I'm going to finish at 13:23. There's a lot of material to go over. I'll go over as fast as possible. I'll be answering questions at the panels all weekend long. Okay, will you believe John Searle? I certainly do, after researching the work for 26 years. There's the DVD. There's a levity disk, what we call now an inverse gravity vehicle, because the disk is repelled, the generator is repelled by a source of gravity. The stronger the source of gravity, the more the repulsion. There I am at Applied Electrogravitic's headquarters in southeastern Pennsylvania, United States of America. That's a model of the C-57D starship from the movie Forbidden Planet, 1956 MGM. And behind me is a drawing of Professor Searle's levity disk, or inverse gravity vehicle, Starship Ezekiel. That's the 90-foot manned craft, drawn up by J.P. Roos in 1970. That's the diagram behind me. And here I am in Albuquerque, New Mexico at Tesla Tech 2010 with a model of 1/1 scale model, about 10-foot diameter. That's 2 meters, actually 3 meters, 3 meters of the Searle levity disk, or inverse gravity vehicle, that I built and brought from southeastern Pennsylvania. Now, let's see. It's a green laser. Right there are the flight cells, flight control cells. We call them, or flight cells, for controlling the flight angle, direction, and speed of the craft in flight. Professor Searle wants clear shells on top and bottom of all the current and future radio-controlled models. Clear shells. This area right here would be where the Searle effect generator would go. That's the thing that really flies. That this body itself is a flight frame for control. Because without control, it will be like the first 6 generators financed by the late George Haynes. They will just be simply lost to space. They will be lost in space. They're repelled from the Earth with great force, irresistible force. Up they go, and they're gone. Presumably forever. Part 1, we'll go to magnetic motors. And we'll talk about electrodynamical helical gears, vortex-based mathematics, and then we'll talk about Searle technology, the solution. Now, John Bandini's magnet. Well, first a little bit about magnets. Magnets are gate pumps for the ether or vacuum or cosmic energy. What I hope you take away from this whole conference is that vacuum itself is energy. It's potential energy, random. We can cohere this energy with certain devices and systems. There's John Bandini's magnetic motor. Let's go back to that for a sec. Those are conventional coils, and they're pulsed at intervals as they're cut by lines of magnetic force, or conductors rather. The coils produce the magnetic force. And here's the Bandini circuit. We have a rotor with permanent magnets, a V-belt for a drive with a cam on it that actuates this switch at intervals. We have a charging battery, photoflash circuit. All this is very familiar if you're into electrical engineering. A diode loop and a coil, a primary and secondary. It's a magnetic circuit which pulses this battery, driving battery, at the resonant frequency of the ions in the battery. That's the key, that's the secret. This will run virtually forever. And since it will, you can tap this for unlimited, limitless electrical energy. Kohei Minato's magnetic motor. There's Kohei Minato. There's his magnetic motor, generator and drive circuit in one. There's a diagram of the circuit. Looks like it's from a patent. I believe it is patented. A lot of people say, oh, well, patents don't work. You know, don't depend on that. Well, every patent that I have ever built has worked at least as well as has been claimed. So don't let anybody ever tell you patents don't work. In my experience, they work very, very well indeed. And there's the controversial Parandiv motor. By the way, I recommend that any of you who have requisite skills in electrical, magnetic disciplines, you can start to build these, and I recommend that you build them at once. Don't wait. There's Troy Reed's magnetic motor. Troy Reed powers an automobile, a car, all around the United States with his magnetic motor. So don't let anybody tell you there's no such thing as free energy. There is. If you're ingenious enough, industrious enough, and you don't quit, don't listen to naysayers, you can be having free energy. Be free of the tyranny of oil companies, monopolies, and cartels and utilities. There's his circuit, there's the stator, there's the rotor, just permanent magnets, that's it. Use rare earth magnets because they won't demagnetize over time. The George Sukup's V-gate motor, there have been a lot of replications on YouTube. It's very easy, very accessible design. Again, use rare earth magnets. There he is. There's the rotor. That's a little dark to see, but you can find diagrams online of that. There's the V-gate, there's the diagram. North Pole, South Pole, North Pole, South Pole, or South Pole, North Pole, I forget. Have to research it. There it is. Again, a rotor and a cam activator that lifts up this repulsion magnet here, repulsion and attraction. All forces act in pairs, so we can utilize electrical forces for electrical motors, electromagnetic motors, or purely magnetic forces, or purely electrostatic forces, as in electrostatic motors. Keep rolling along here because the time is going by very, very fast. There's Bruce De Palma. He's the brother of horror movie, suspense movie director Brian De Palma. This guy's a genius. He expanded on the idea of Faraday's rotating disk generator and found that if you rotate magnets, you can just draw energy right out of the vacuum, right out of the ether. And remember, vacuum is potential energy. I think Wheeler calculated that vacuum has a potential energy of 10 to the 94th grams per cubic centimeter. So that's 10 with 94 zeros on the end of it. So that's the mass equivalent energy. So you can imagine that energy is just stupendous. I think 1 cubic meter of it is calculated to be able to boil off all the Earth's oceans. So you can imagine that's more energy than even an antimatter annihilation explosion. There it is. It's just a, let's see, let me try a red laser. It's light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. Acronym laser. Is the red laser easier to see or the green laser?
Green.
You got it. Green it is. That's easier because the clicker's in here too. Anyway, here's the conductor. That's just a copper disc or a metallic disc. Here are the magnets, permanent magnet rings you can take out of speakers. So south, north, south, north, south, north, south, north. Here is a rod that you take the power off of, the negative or the positive. Actually, the positive is at the hub, negative is at the rim. And if you mount a regular voltmeter, you can register a voltage outside the disc, but if you mount it on the disc, you won't get any deflection in the needle. That's relativity. So conducting disc, 2 ferrite ring magnets on either side, shaft, and now this configuration draws low voltage and high current, so you can generate magnetic fields with low voltage and high current. That's the way electromagnets work. And Joe Newman, a very famous figure in the free energy magnetic motor field, has had battles with the U.S. Patent Office because they say, well, your motor violates all the conventionally accepted laws of physics. It's impossible. We won't give you a patent. But I first saw his work featured in 1982, 30 years ago, on the CBS Evening News in the United States with Dan Rather. And uses a very long coil with lots and lots of turns. So by the time the pulse comes in, it's going at the speed of light. You can draw free energy from a rotor inside. There's the magnetic field configuration of the coil. Conventional magnetic field. There's a driving battery. Current moves at the speed of light, but the coil is extremely long. And there's the chemical makeup of the ions you can get in the battery. Very interesting magnetic motor. There's Joe Newman. Howard Johnson. Howard Johnson got a patent in 1979 for his magnetic motor. There he is. He died recently. 1919 to 2008. Unsung pioneer, but his work was featured in Popular Mechanics. There's his rotor and stator arrangement. There's amazing magnetic motor by unsung pioneer Howard